Welcome back to Bible Talk Insight. We're doing another deep dive today as part of our series, Tools to Understand Prophecy.
That's right.
And today, we're zeroing in on something really foundational, Immanuel. That name meaning God with us.
A name packed with so much meaning. And I think to really get it, you have to understand how sacrifice fits into the whole picture. We touched on that before, how central it is.
Exactly. Because understanding sacrifice is, well, it's almost like a key to unlocking what God with us really means in the context of Bible prophecy.
Absolutely. You can't really separate them.
So this idea of sacrifice, specifically animal sacrifice, it's not just a minor detail in the Bible, is it?
Oh, not at all. It's everywhere. I mean, right from Genesis all the way through to Revelation, you see it pop up again and again.
Even in those big throne room scenes in Revelation 4 and 5.
Especially there. It's central. Remember, Jesus appears as a lamb, one that looks like it's been slain. Revelation 5.6. That image, that's crucial for understanding prophecy.
A lamb that was slain. Okay, so let's unpack that. If sacrifice is so central, we also know there were times when God didn't accept sacrifices.
Right, that's a really important point. It tells us it wasn't just about the ritual itself. Something deeper was required.
Like with Cain and Abel back in Genesis?
Exactly, Genesis 4. Both brothers bring an offering. God accepts Abel's, but not Cain's. Why?
Well, Hebrews tells us Abel offered his by faith.
By faith, yes. And many scholars suggest Cain's problem was, well, maybe his heart wasn't right, or maybe it was the offering itself, just crops, no blood sacrifice, which was often the symbol pointing towards, atonement. Maybe pride, too.
So the attitude, the heart behind the act was key.
Definitely. And it's not just an early Genesis thing. Fast forward to Isaiah chapter 1.
Ah, yes, where God basically says, I've had enough of your sacrifices.
Pretty much. He says, what to me is the multitude of your sacrifices? He's tired of the burnt offerings, the blood of bulls and lambs, all of it, even the solemn meetings.
And why? What was the reason he gave?
He's very clear. Isaiah says it's because of their iniquity, their sin, their hands are full of blood. There's just no sincerity there.
It's just motions. Empty rituals.
Utterly empty. Isaiah 1 verse 13 calls them futile. God saw right through the external show to the lack of any real interchange.
That really drives home the idea from Psalm 51, doesn't it? The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart.
Precisely. That's what God truly desires, not just the outward stuff, but that inner brokenness, that humility, that turning towards him.
And Jesus quotes Isaiah later saying, people draw near with their mouths, honor with their lips.
But their hearts are far from me. Mark chapter 7 references that. It's a consistent message. The heart condition is paramount. Always.
Okay, so if the sacrifices themselves weren't the ultimate point and the attitude was crucial, what was their main purpose then? Why all the animals?
Great question. The overwhelming scriptural understanding is that they were symbolic. They were types.
Types.
Meaning they were like patterns or foreshadows, living illustrations, you could say, pointing forward to something much, much bigger.
The main event, so to speak.
Exactly. Pointing forward to the ultimate atoning sacrifice of Jesus Christ. John the Baptist calls him the Lamb of God.
John 1:29.
Right. And Revelation even talks about the lamb slain from the foundation of the world. It was always part of the plan.
So it's like, I read one author describe it like having a ticket for a journey. The sacrifice is the ticket, a symbol representing the real thing, the salvation, which is the journey itself.
That's a helpful analogy, yeah. The ticket isn't the journey, but it represents it and gets you on board in a sense.
And we see specific examples, right? Like the Passover lamb.
Oh, absolutely. Exodus 12, the blood on the doorpost protected the Israelites from the angel of death. That's a powerful type.
And Paul connects that directly to Jesus in 1 Corinthians, calling Christ our Passover lamb.
Has been sacrificed for us. 1 Corinthians 5.7. The connection is explicit. Christ's blood provides the true covering, the true protection.
But the book of Hebrews makes it clear that the blood of those animals couldn't actually take away sin permanently.
It couldn't. Hebrews 10 is very direct about that. It says it's impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins.
So what do they do then?
They served as a constant reminder. A reminder of sin and a reminder that a better, more perfect sacrifice was needed. They kept pointing forward.
Pointing towards Jesus.
Towards Jesus. He is the fulfillment of all those Old Testament types. His death and resurrection were the reality those shadows were hinting at.
And that moment when the temple veil tore in two when Jesus died.
Mark 15.38. Yeah, that's widely seen as symbolizing the end of that old system. The barrier was removed. Access to God was now direct through Christ. No need for the old sacrifices anymore.
Hebrews says Christ came to do God's will, setting aside the first system, the animal sacrifices, to establish the second.
The second being his own self-offering. Hebrews 10, verse 10. We have been made holy through the sacrifice of the body of Jesus Christ once for all. Once. For all time.
A definitive act. Unlike the repeated animal sacrifices.
Exactly. And again, Paul in 1 Corinthians 5.7, indeed Christ, or a Passover, was sacrificed for us. It's central. Even Isaiah 53 predicted it. The suffering servant led like a lamb to the slaughter.
Okay, so we have sacrifice pointing relentlessly towards Jesus. Now, let's loop back to Immanuel, God with us. How does understanding all this about sacrifice deepen that specific name?
This is where it gets incredibly profound. God coming as one of us, Jesus dwelling among humanity. It wasn't just a visit. It was God stepping into the story, into the plan of redemption that those sacrifices had been sketching out for centuries.
So Immanuel isn't just God is generally present, it's God present in this specific redemptive way.
Precisely. He came to be with us in order to accomplish the sacrifice. One writer put it beautifully, Jesus is God's thought made audible. God speaking himself into human existence.
God's thought made audible. I like that. So Jesus' life wasn't just teaching, it was revelation.
It was the ultimate revelation. He showed us God's character, merciful, gracious, patient, full of love and truth, not just by talking about it, but by living it. Every healing, every act of compassion, every parable.
It was God showing us himself, showing us what God with us looks like in practice.
Exactly. Every doctrine of grace, every promise, every deed of love, it all points back to this reality. God is with us, embodied in Jesus.
And this ties back to sacrifice, because for Jesus to be the sacrifice, he had to be truly human, truly with us in that sense.
Yes. He became our substitute, our surety, our representative. To die our death, he had to be one of us. He couldn't die as God in his divine nature alone.
So his humanity was essential for the sacrifice.
Absolutely essential. He had to become human to die, to destroy the one who holds the power of death, as Hebrews says.
And not just human, but a perfect human, living the sinless life we couldn't.
Right. He fulfilled God's holy requirements perfectly. Peter talks about being redeemed not with perishable things, but with the precious blood of Christ, a lamb without blemish or defect.
That perfection was necessary for the sacrifice to be acceptable, to be effective.
It was. His sinless life and sacrificial death satisfied God's justice completely. His blood was the ransom price. And this whole plan, culminating in the cross, perfectly demonstrates both God's unwavering justice and his incredible mercy. Neither is compromised.
Thinking about the necessity of that sacrifice, it really highlights how serious sin must be in God's eyes.
It really does. If that was the cost, the death of God's own son, living as one of us, then sin isn't just a minor mistake. It's fundamentally opposed to God's nature.
Isaiah 64 says all our righteous acts are like filthy rags. It shows we couldn't bridge that gap ourselves.
No way we could. God couldn't just wave a hand and say, it's okay. Justice demanded a payment. Imagine a human judge just letting criminals go free without consequence.
It wouldn't be just.
Right. So Jesus stepped in. He took our place. He paid the price the law demanded, which Romans 6 tells us is death.
And Isaiah 53 again. He was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him.
And by his wounds we are healed. It's such a powerful picture of substitution. He took what we deserved.
Even that cry from the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? That shows the separation sin causes, right?
Yeah.
Which he took upon himself.
It reflects the deepest horror of sin separation from God. He experienced that for us.
You mentioned Psalm 22 there.
Yeah.
Isn't there an image in that Psalm, verse 6, about being a worm, the crimson grub?
Yes, the tolaut. It's a fascinating detail. That specific worm, when crushed, produced a valuable crimson dye used for fabrics.
So the symbolism is
Jesus being utterly crushed, broken, seemingly destroyed. But out of that crushing comes the covering, the cleansing dye, the forgiveness for our sins. It's a profound image of transformation through suffering.
Wow. It underscores that God's love shown at the cross wasn't cheap. It was incredibly costly.
Infinitely costly. And that's why the cross is non-negotiable for salvation. Ephesians 2.8. For by grace you have been saved through faith. It happens through the cross. There's no other way.
And the cross reveals everything about God, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. His justice, his hatred of sin, but also his overwhelming love and mercy.
All perfectly balanced, perfectly displayed. His character shines through the darkness of the crucifixion.
So Immanuel, God with us. It's not just a comforting thought, it's a reality bought at an immense price.
A reality secured through the ultimate sacrifice. God is with us because the Lamb was slain. That act bridged the gap.
Which means the gift of salvation, the reality of God being truly with us through Jesus, is, well, it's far greater than we can probably grasp, bigger than our sins.
So much bigger. That's the amazing truth. Immanuel isn't just a historical name. It's a present reality because of what Christ accomplished.
It really gives you a lot to think about. The sheer depth of God's love, the seriousness of sin, and how understanding sacrifice totally reshapes how we see God's presence now.
Absolutely. How does knowing this was the cost affect how you see God working in your life day to day? What does it mean for your hope looking at prophecy in the future?
Those are definitely questions worth reflecting on, because the story doesn't end with the slain lamb.
No, it doesn't. Revelation 5 again, the Lamb who was slain is now standing, exalted, worthy, and he offers us redemption, relationship, and the constant assurance that God truly is with us, always.